Hello everyone and welcome back to IELTS with Rashid. In this video, I'm going to talk you through true, false, not given questions. And after watching this video, you will see that your entire fear of these questions will be instantly removed. So let's get started. So this is the overview of this video. Firstly, we'll see the essential information about these questions, what are common problems, the useful tips, and then 5-step method and an example. Let us first quickly look at the essential information about these questions. True, false, not given questions require you to identify if the information in a text is true, false, or there is no mention about that at all. Secondly, true, false, not given questions and yes, no, not given questions are quite similar. All the techniques that you learn for the true, false, not given questions also work for yes, no, not given questions too. You'll see that most of the true, false, not given questions appear in passage 1 and passage 2, while yes, no, not given questions in passage 3. All the questions will appear in the passage in order of their number. So if you find question number 2 in line number 3 of paragraph 2, the next question will come in the upcoming lines. It won't go backward. All the question statements will be paraphrased in the text, so you won't find exact sentences in the passage as you read in the questions. With true, false, not given questions, if the question is true, false, don't write yes, no. Similarly, write yes, no if the question is yes, no. Don't write true, false for that. You have to answer questions based on what you read from the passage and not from your own background knowledge. You can simply write short forms as well, like T for true. Alright, now these are the common problems that students come across while they are attempting these questions. The biggest problem here is false and not given options. Most students are not used to answering these types of questions and it causes them a lot of problems because they're not sure what to look for. Another common mistake is identifying the key words in the statements and then trying to find the exact words that exactly match in the text. Finally, some students fail to understand exactly what is true, false, and not given and what they actually mean. Now let's look at how we can solve these problems. Tip number 1 is that you have to understand what these questions are. What does true, what does false, and what does not given actually mean? The biggest reason of not doing well on these questions is when you don't know what actually true, false, or not given mean. What makes a statement true, what makes it false, and what makes it not given. It can be quite confusing, and if you aren't clear about that, no method will work. So let's first understand what these 3 options actually mean. Okay, what a true statement is. This is actually a straightforward and not very confusing. A true statement means that the information in the question and the passage is exactly same. The words used in the passage may be paraphrased and a little different from the question, but gives the same meaning which is there in the question. 100% same. Let's understand this with this example. This is what the passage says. The advertisement by London Zoo in 2020 changed the reality. And at the end of the passage, we have this question. The London Zoo's advertisements in 2020 were dishonest. So we have to check what the passage says about the advertisements, if the advertisements were correct or not. The question statement is true because both the passage and the question are giving the same information. Only there is a difference of words. The word dishonest and change the reality mean exactly the same thing. Now let's look at what false means. Pay very close attention here because this is what causes all the confusion. False means the opposite, the contradictory. For a question to be false, first its information must be given in the text, and secondly, its information in the passage must be totally opposite and must be giving information that's not correct. A statement is false when you can clearly say that it is a lie. Let's look at the same example. The passage says, the advertisements by the London Zoo in 2020 truly gave the real picture. And at the end of the passage, we have this question. The London Zoo's advertisements in 2020 were dishonest. What do you think of the question now? Do you think that the question is saying dishonest and the passage is saying the opposite of it? The passage says the real picture. Is dishonest and the real picture the same thing? You understood it right. They don't mean the same. They mean exactly the opposite. The passage says the adverts were honest and gave real picture, but the question statements say they were dishonest. That's why the question statement is false. The question is clearly contradicting to what the passage says. Okay, now we'll look at not given with the help of this example. This time the passage says, the London Zoo gave many advertisements in 2020. And we have this question at the end of the passage. The London Zoo's advertisements in 2020 were dishonest. So according to this passage, is the information in the question true, false, or not given? It is not given because we can't say for sure about the nature of the advertisements. We do have London Zoo, we do have advertisements, we do have 2020, everything is mentioned. But what is not mentioned in the passage is the nature, whether these advertisements were honest or dishonest. So because of the absence of this comment, we would say that this question is not given. The next tip is that do not match the words, match the meanings. When the statement is false, you won't find that all the statement, every word of it is false. Most of the information would be similar. The examiners make the statements false or not given by bringing in just a small twist in the statement through one word or two words. As we have seen, you may find same words both in the question and the text. But if you don't pay attention to other words which are in context, you might miss some important information. These surrounding words change the meaning of the sentence. So match the overall complete meaning of the question statement with corresponding complete meaning in the passage. Any little change, it will change the whole statement and change the whole status of the question too. Look at another example. This is what the passage says. The study surveys children's scientific knowledge and attitudes to the rainforests. The secondary school children were asked to complete a questionnaire containing 5 open form questions. Now look at the question here. The study involved asking children a number of yes-no questions. So we have most of the information in the question and the passage which is exactly same. Both statements are talking about children. Both have sense of survey and asking the children, which is same. Even the word question is also there in both. But what is not similar is the nature of the question. The question says yes-no questions, but the passage says open form questions. So this part of the information is something that is different in both statements, so the answer is false. Okay, the next tip is that be extra careful when there is a mention of comparison in the question. Just because an answer is not given doesn't mean that there are no words in the statements that match words in the text. There probably will be matching words for not given answers. Check out this example. Passage says, fewer students responded that rainforests provide plant habitats, and even fewer mentioned the indigenous population of rainforests. More girls, 70%, than boys, 60%, raised the idea of rainforests as animal habitats. And the question says, girls are more likely than boys to hold mistaken views about the rainforest's destruction. You see that most of the information matches in both the question and the passage. But just because the passage mentions about more girls than boys and also about the rainforest, it doesn't mean that the answer is true or false. We are not really sure whether girls have more mistaken views than boys. So the answer is not given. So if we look at one part of the question, it appears true, more girls than boys. But if we look at the other part of the question, which is the mistaken views about the rainforest, so this part is not given. So the statement is overall not given. So you have to decide about the overall information that the question is giving. In this question, one part is there, but the other part is not there. So that makes this question and not given. So what the people do is that they mistakenly just look at the first part of the question and they quickly go to the passage and find it there, and without thinking they mark it true or false, but they don't look at the complete question. So always go for complete question and understand and verify every part of it. You also have to be very careful about the words like all, nearly, almost, sometimes. These words modify the meaning of all the sentence. These words are nearly, all, some, a few, always, often, occasionally, more than, less than, or any other words of comparison like that. When they are used in question, make sure to understand what they mean and verify it from the text. These are meaning-changing words and change the status of the question from true to false or not given. Look at this example. 25% of people smoke. All people smoke. You see, both of these statements can't be said to have the same meaning. Let's move to the tip number 5. Do spend some time on the question and read it very carefully. When you are in exam, you are in a hurry, you want to finish test before the time is over, I understand, but don't be too fast. True, false, not given questions involve changing the meaning of the whole sentence and statements just by an addition of one word or two words only, like always, often, etc. If you miss them, your answer will nearly always be wrong. So read slowly and always look for the words which are changing the meaning of the statements. The tip number 6 is that you should keep the next question in your mind. If the information related to the next question has started in the text, and this means that the answer you are looking for, probably you have either left behind it or it's not given. Answers are always in the same order that they appear in the text, so do not waste time going back. Keep on reading. If you can't find the information you're looking for, then it is probably not given. Okay, so keep these tips in your mind and follow this 5-step method. First, read the passage for general idea. Next, read the question and clearly understand what is something that you have to verify from the passage. In the next step, underline any words like some, a few, mainly, or any other word that can change the meaning of the whole sentence. Then go to the location of the passage, determine if the question is true, false, not given by following the tips that you have got in this video. Lastly, write down your answer on the answer sheet. Let's do this example by following this method. Okay, the first step, read the paragraph for general idea. Second step, let's look at the question now. It says, the plight of rainforest has been ignored by the media. Now the third step, we underline the key words, that is ignored by the media. We have to understand if media has given any attention to the rainforests. Now before going into the passage, let's think about this. If it clearly says that the media has ignored, then we would say this is true. But also think of the opposite. The opposite is that the media paid attention. If the media paid attention, then this question would be false. Even. Let's see. If you look at here, it clearly says, despite vivid media coverage. So this means media did give coverage to it. So this is opposite to what the question is saying. So it is false. Thank you for watching. I hope these tips will help you improve your score on true, false, not given questions. I'm Rashid, and I'll see you in the next video.